Good morning. It's my honor and privilege to welcome you to yet another edition of the BW Dialogue. Today, we talk to Mr. Shachindra Nath, who's the managing director and founder of GRO Capital. He's a veteran of the financial services domain, and he's building GRO from grounds up into an entity that makes an impact in the lives of many Indians. Welcome, Mr. Nath, to BW Dialogue. We'd like to start by asking you how have been the last 9 months for you, both personally and professionally, and how do you see 2021?
Thank you, Anurag. It's always good to be back with you. Whenever I talk to you, and I hope you're doing very well. You're one of those who have been impacted with COVID. I've been seeing how bravely you fought with this, and good to see you back on the screen. So for last 9 months, it has been, obviously we have never seen a challenge like this. Obviously, both at a personal level as well as business level, it has been a very challenging time. At personal level, because my daughter just got admitted in US, in Berkeley, she couldn't go. So all of that thing. And also, for the first time in my life, I have stayed at home for 9 months. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but obviously I enjoyed that. But it was just to readjust to the living in a closed house was quite challenging personally. But in terms of the business, actually, first few months were really scary because general perception was that as if the world has come to an end. I am a born optimist, so I always believe that we would overcome any of these challenges. And actually, after first 2 months of very depressing environment, rest of the last 6 months have been actually good. Not only we have been able to accelerate our business, we have been able to digitize, but more so in an environment where small businesses were completely became out of favor from all the lending institution. We were able to create a different program, increase our distribution reach, and have very well supported our small business customer. And we genuinely believe that 2021, first half of 2021 would still remain muted. But second half of 2021 should bring back growth quite strongly. So we are working towards that.
Thank you so much, Shachindra, for being optimistic. Yes, the economy started to recover slowly, and the numbers point to that. I hope the momentum continues. Now, for our viewers, not many viewers would know that you did not start in the financial services industry in terms of your education. You went to the Banaras Hindu University and you started with a degree in law, and then you came into doing what you do currently. Give us a sense of this journey.
Yeah, so I continue to believe that destiny plays a large role in anyone's life, right? Irrespective of what you do, what you design. So I was born and brought up in Banaras. Both my parents were professors respectively in BHU and another university and I ended up taking a law degree, and obviously my father wanted me to be a lawyer because he felt that I would do very well there, but I started my career, I actually technically ran away from home, started my career with Garwani Wallroofs, worked 1 year, and then I came back home. I was the only child, so I was pulled back home, and then I worked a few years in carpet industry in Mirzapur. And actually, it played a large role of what I do today, actually. For a period of then around 16, 17 years, I was in this mainline financial services business, doing multiple stuff. But when, I started GRO, my starting journey in a very rural area, understanding, deep India and its demographic is helping me quite a bit. So it is just so happened that, in spite of having a professional law degree, I ended up in financial services in 2000. And since then, in end of 2015, I decided to become entrepreneur. And obviously I had to struggle for 3 years to raise the capital, but then finally here we are.
Good. So now coming back to the economy. Now, a lot has been said about the economy in the last few months. We are about 27 days away from the budget. The finance minister has promised us a budget that she says will be like never before. She has raised our expectations from the budget. As an entrepreneur, somebody who understands the levers of economy, what should one expect from the finance minister in this budget? What is needed in this budget to kind of shore up the economy in a big way?
Yeah, so, for a country like ours, we don't have the same headroom which most of the mature economies have. But I think so what is expected is recreation or demand generation. And in our country, the burden of generating the demand in economy finally lies on the hands of the government. But which means that at some point of time, government has to look beyond the fiscal deficit target and take what you call the gut call of expanding the economy. And I think so the finance minister has indicated to do some sort of that, because the government is spending into infrastructure, to increase the consumer demand, and more so to provide more disposable income in the hands of the rural economy and micro SME segment, which will spur the economy big time. So let's hope and watch. Obviously, how the government would augment the resources for that is big challenge. But given that now, if you look at the GST collection data, which is all-time high, I think the government is getting more resources, and it has to think a little bit out of ordinary and not constrain itself to the defined parameter of fiscal deficit. And if it end up doing that, I think so, we will see good days ahead.
Okay. Now, coming back to the financial services businesses, micro and SME enterprises really need the capital, especially in a market like currently where, receivables may be under pressure, funding may not happening. Tell us, what is the way to shore up liquidity overall? Anybody you talk to talks about, circulation of funds is not there, circulation of money is not there. So is there a solution? You understand the financial services business, you understand how NBFCs work, so on and so forth. So is there a way to be able to increase the liquidity at the grassroots level so that the SMEs are well funded and hence are able to scale up and make the impact that SMEs can?
Yeah. So it has got three components. First was what I call the systematic problem of arranging the liquidity into the entire financial ecosystem. I think this government did a fantastic job in providing for that. I think so if right from the starting of the pandemic, rather than unlike West, handing over money in the hands of small business directly, government used multiple measures. So obviously RBI came with liquidity scheme for NBFC through TLTRO. Government, came with multiple scheme, which is called partial credit guarantee and the emergency credit line. So put together all three, I think so the problem of liquidity in the hands of NBFC, which actually do the last mile intermediation of credit, more or less has been taken care of, except the bottom of the pyramid, which is very small NBFC, which are BBB minus to BBB plus, are still suffering some form of liquidity. But general liquidity for NBFCs and banks obviously are flushed with liquidity is no longer a challenge. Second is what we call is the credit appetite. So obviously there is a problem in that. So financial institutions at the moment are more focused in managing their existing portfolios because they are under stress. And that's why their appetite to take new credit for SME and micro SME is little muted. That's more so because the traditional lenders' ability to forecast future cash flow in a market like this is very, very difficult. So that is the second problem. And third is the credit worthiness, or what I call of the MSME itself. So at the level 2 and level 3, the only way the bank and financial institutions would solve this problem of how they will give credit. So there is a massive transformation in digitization and technology is happening. Some bit of that we are seeing, whether it is the account aggregation, open network, cash flow based financing, and there is a very serious push from the government to public sector banks to provide for the liquidity. But the challenge of the being digitally enabled, so SME and micro SME generally are not yet digitally savvy. So simple example for that, today if say I want your banking digitally and all of your GST, either they will not be ready or not care to it. So these two things over a period of time have solved. more so, I think, so when we start for taking credit for banks and financial institutions, what is that they have to demonstrate? Are they ready to demonstrate that digitally? So I think so that is the key to get credit, because there are financial institutions which are young, nimble, have liquidity, are ready to experiment, which are ready to give credit to SME and micro SME.
Thank you so much. Now, if you talk to any bank, traditional big successful bank, or you talk to a startup, everyone wants to be a fintech. The fintech revolution in India, because of the low penetration, the advantages that a fintech player brings, new business models, you talked about it briefly. So fintech is at the kind of an early stage in India. If you had to predict some, trends in the fintech sector, what would those be? Of course, everyone is using technology for lending, technology for acquisition of customers, artificial intelligence and machine learning to look at the credit history, to be able to look at the need of the micro consumer. So fintech is in some way redefining how the whole lending ecosystem works. Give us a sense of the top 3 trends in the fintech ecosystem.
Right. So sometimes I wonder, what does that term fintech means? So, recently we were categorized by some media house as top 5 fintechs in the country. And we never thought of UGRO to be categorized as a fintech. For us, being digital is part of our journey, and it is necessity, right? It is not it is just method to a means. See, look, the challenge of fintech in India, unlike consumer businesses. So if you look at a Flipkart or an Amazon or any marketplace, you have a consumer and you have the marketplace, which has to provide goods, delivery and services. But fintech has third component, is that somebody has to provide liquidity to fintech to give that money, to an MSME or to a consumer, right? Now, for all of this, which means that in spite of any kind of innovation you do, the lenders to the fintech should be comfortable with that innovation. So, but who are the lenders? Because finally, the lenders to the fintech or NBFCs are predominantly banks. 70% of India's banking still is public sector. And then there are private sector banks. To some extent, they are also doing digitization. That's where the chain is broken. I don't think so that fintech in India yet have proven that they have the same characteristics of managing their balance sheet and creating this very robust portfolio performance as a very successful bank like an HDFC and few others, right? So that's where the problem for the fintech is. Over a period of time, my view is that some of the new trends. So if you look at the massive push which RBI has put through regulation of co-lending between NBFC and banks, right, wherein you have a massive liquidity among top 12 public sector banks and few private sector banks, and NBFCs which are digitally enabled have last mile connectivity. That collaboration would finally, make fintech be able to do the job what they are doing. This is on the credit side. Fintech are doing a phenomenal job when it comes to the payment ecosystem, open banking, so on and so forth. But when it comes to the credit, the role of the fintech is still limited in the overall scheme of things. So total outstanding portfolio through fintech into the market would be less than 20,000 or 25,000 crore, right? The outstanding credit for MSME is roughly around 18 lakh crore. So you can contextualize how small fintech industry is. And that would only grow when the mainline lenders become comfortable with fintech's underwriting methodology, collection and all of that. And over a period of time, what we have seen that in cycles, some of these fintechs don't stack up at the same level what a financial institutions need from them.
Okay. My last question before I bring in Anisha. Shachindra, as an entrepreneur, you started UGRO now more than 2 years back. It is growing very fast. Tell us, in 2021, what are the milestones for UGRO that you set for yourself?
Yeah. So one of the things, what I've learned very hard way by being employed for almost 25 years, that when it comes to creation of financial institution, you have to have a time horizon of at least 10 to 15 years. Because by doing it sooner than that, then you will falter. So we look at everything that time perspective. Fortunately, we have backing of investors who are also patient. When we raise capital, we make sure that we don't raise capital very expensive, so that the investors can have patience. Because when you take very expensive, then obviously they also have to get exit faster. So to that extent, we are taking baby steps, doing calibrated growth. Our long-term view, which I say 5 years, is to take at least one.
I think we lost Shachindra. I'm sure he'll be back in a sec, and we'll talk to him. As he rightly said, that Fintechs has just started the new financial services revolution, and they have a long way to go. And Shachindra was outlining the milestones that GRO needs to achieve in 2021. We'll have him back very soon and listen to what GRO has planned.
Yeah, I'm back.
Yes, Sachin, go on.
Hi, can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Sorry, I was saying that
Yes, we can.
from a 5-year perspective, we want to take 1% market share. Today, the outstanding credit is 17 lakh crore. It should grow to 22, 23 lakh crore. And 1% of that should be roughly around 20 to 23,000 odd crore. That continues to be our long-term aspiration. With respect to 2021, I think so we want to use this time of crisis as an opportunity, because for us, we have built a large distribution base. We have an incredible management team. We have support of both equity and debt investors. And in last 6 months, actually more than 25 financial institutions, which is almost every public sector bank and private sector bank, has come to lend to us. So we want to make sure that we support all the SME which is coming through different channel to us, and continue to grow our business. I think so by 2021, we should be double in size, at least for our outstanding book, even without doing anything inorganic.
Okay, we wish you luck in that. Before I ask other questions, I would like to bring in my colleague Anisha Aditya to ask the next set of questions. Anisha, all yours.
Good morning, Mr. Nath. So good morning. So my next question to you is that, of course, due to the pandemic, different sectors of businesses in India confronted several risks and challenges. So could you tell us a little bit about the various kinds of risks or challenges that your business, GRO Capital, had to confront in 2020? And also, what was the state of financing SMEs and MSMEs in India in 2020?
Yeah, very good question. Actually, I think so. Lending is a business of risk, right? You have to always take risk wherein you lend to somebody and you expect your principal to come back and earn some interest. Now, the perception of risk changes with what is the external environment. So obviously, when the pandemic hit and when you're forced to sit at home, you're all human beings. So by design of that, you presume that everything, there is a doomsday and you should not do any business. Fortunately for us, because we have been just at 1.5 year old at that point of time, we had sufficient equity capital of more than 950 odd. We had used this thing back, that is because we saw in the first 2 months of pandemic, we realized that there are still businesses in essential services which were operating. There were businesses which were supplying foods to you. So there was some activity which was still happening. People needed capital. So given the level of digitization, given that none of the lenders are coming up, can we not find a way to start the credit engine again? And what we realized that we had tools that. So we launched a program called Sanjeevani in June of 2020. Sanjeevani, as you know, is a medicine for revitalizing somebody who's in a complete deep distress. In our Sanjeevani program, what we did is that we used deep data analytics. We looked at the banking, last 12 months of GST. Our system analyzed pre-COVID and COVID data and corroborated that with that. There was a very unique, because you might know that the lender which is focused on only sectors of market, and within the sector we do only 25 sectors.
I'm sure Shachindra will react and complete the answer that he was giving to Anisha's question. And he was rightly saying that, lending business has risk. And go on, Shachindra.
Sorry, I don't know. I know it's happening. Never happened. This is like I was in the banquet have very mortality. Fast food chains who have very low mortality, and actually their business is growing. So, basis this in our Sanjeevani program, we looked at the data of the turnover, and so I think so by using that we were able to restart the credit, and we, I was just telling before this conversation that in February we were disbursing roughly around 120 crores, and now we are at the same level or a little higher than that. So I think so if you are nimble, you have a method to innovate, you should be able to do business in because of India as a country still has a live business. There are people who are still going out. You still see the traffic on the road. In fact, in terms of our innovation, we have filed our first patent of a AI driven technology platform which we have built, which we should receive that patent. So we are doing all of that what is possible, and our view is that while the perceived risk has gone high, but there is a method to eliminate that risk and continue doing your business.
Absolutely. Let me ask you, Shachindra, you talked for the first 3 years of your business. You said you struggled, you used the word we struggled, and then we set up, you were able to raise the capital, and today we are in business lending. Give us a sense of this journey.
So, Anurag, that, when you come from a small town and come from a family of educationists, you are not trained or you're not told to become entrepreneur, because I think the biggest aspiration for parents of educated children is that they will get a good job and they will continue to work, and the same was with me. But I think at the end of 2015, when I had to leave my previous job in a very difficult circumstances, because I was uncomfortable with the level of governance and what was happening. I failed to complete a management buyout. And when all of a sudden I decided that I would not like to be part of that organization. And I was first time in my life, I was on my own. So first struggle is the mental challenge to be on your own for 2-3 years without seeing monthly cash flow coming into your account, but commit yourself that you will build a platform, go to almost more than 120 investors, and basically on a piece of a paper try to raise capital and build. It was an enormous, you need a very, very deep conviction and grit to go through that journey. But I think so the perseverance, God has been kind, and I think so my team was extremely supportive that we overcome that struggle. We ended up raising highest ever capital for an NBFC in India, in 2017. So I think the process of it needed, and I don't know how God gave me the courage, it needed a very sheer amount of conviction that if the idea is powerful, if the intent is right, and if the market opportunity for which you want to build business, capital actually is commodity. What is needed is conviction, and I think so that proven. And once that happens, then after that, it is about staying on the course and not getting distracted by external circumstances or attracted by what we call low-hanging fruit. Building an SME and micro SME business is a difficult business. It takes number of years, and every day there are easy opportunity which come your way, right? Which we have to say no to every day is the is a continuing challenge. But but that's fine.
Okay. And Sachin, when you talk to other entrepreneurs, post-COVID, has something changed in the way they think, in the way they approach things, in the way their own mindset works? For example, one simple change is that, entrepreneurs are not necessarily chasing valuations. They're chasing profitability, they're chasing sustainability. So give us a sense of the mindset change that entrepreneurs have had post-corona.
Yeah. No, that's so. I think so. This change is more coming from the investor side itself. I think so. There has been a last 7-8 years of pre-COVID time, wherein actually investors pushed entrepreneurs to chase top-line growth, but don't build profitable businesses. And we have seen that because there was so much of capital available only for a headline growth number, that entrepreneurs mostly got into this this treadmill of believing that burning cash is good, building top line is the most important thing. And once that that funnel of capital got choked, people realized that finally you have to build a business which can stand on its own. The valuation, the capital is an outcome of your good business, and not other way around. And I think that is the biggest change. When I talk to people, they fundamentally talk. First thing they say, we are going to break even in next 2 months. We are going to be cash positive in next month. And prior to COVID, every conversation was that we will get X amount of top line. And by the way, we are burning cash, but we have X amount of total cash. So we have next 10 months of cash burn available on our balance sheet. And by the way, before this get exhausted, we will raise another round of capital. So I think so that change is good, because what you will see now is sustainable business model getting created rather than business model which were created only on power of capital.
Absolutely. Anisha, go ahead, ask the next set.
So, Mr. Nath, of course, in the last couple of years of your operations for GRO Capital, the business has been successfully scaling itself. And in your regular daily operations of the business, you're constantly helping MSMEs and SMEs of India grow. So what would you say are the initial success factors for establishing a company?
Yes, Anisha, honestly, success is a relative term. I think so. We have been able to establish ourselves. We have got a little bit of name for ourselves. We have now, in the business, we are far away from what I define success is, because our long-term goal is to be the India's largest SME and micro SME business financing business, being able to help millions of MSME. So we are still too far remote from that aspiration. So I would not term ourselves as a successful, but I think so. Where we are successful is that we have been able to put some early stage footing to go there, and I know we know that. The reason why what we have been able to achieve till date is very three defined. One, obviously, a sheer commitment of our investors. Investors who understand financial services, who understand challenges and time it takes. Second, I think so we have an exceptional board. So GRO is a completely board supervised company. Majority of our board is sets of independent director, and we have people who have come from different background. People from RBI, SBI, bureaucracy, private sector bank, public sector bank, SIDBI, DFIs, and others. So I think so they keep us on track all the time. And third is the combined vision and commitment of the management team. We have sets of people who really believe in the market opportunity and who feel for providing credit support for MSME, and they all are working towards that. So I think so these are the combined thing. There is no one single factor. All of that has to come together, and it has to remain together in the same form and shape for an institution to get built over the next 5 to 10 years.
Okay. Anisha, I want to ask Sachin. Sachin, there are lots of financial services assets. There are NBFC assets out there. When you bid for an NBFC asset, what is it that you look at the asset? Because of course you look at their network, you look at the balance sheet, uh, you know, you look at the team sometimes. Tell me, when you look at how big is culture? Because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
I believe when you're doing acquisitions, the difference between success and failure is the culture.
Absolutely.
So give us a sense of when you're looking at acquisitions in the space of financial services, and there are candidates out there. What is the kind of mindset you have when you approach these acquisitions?
Yeah. So Anurag, just as a disclaimer, our plan is completely organic. We tend to build our business organic, but we are not averse to inorganic growth as well. The reason for that is because we believe that, NBFC industry is poised for consolidation, and size does matter because size also brings some form of a stability. So from that perspective, we look at inorganic as well. The challenge for us is that we are deeply focused for SME and micro SME businesses, and there are not many other NBFCs who are sharply focused on just one segment of the market. So most of the NBFCs would have things from two-wheeler, auto, personal loan, wholesale, SME as a combined business, and then it becomes challenging for us because we don't have any intention to enter into any of that segment. But those who are focused on this and who want to be part of this growth journey, we are looking at it. We look at three things. One, the underlying platform. We want to treat any consolidation to happen on the basis of equity. We want to give them the same status. We want to treat them, with the same. We do want to do equitable conversation rather than be in the shoe of an acquirer. We are not an acquirer. We think 2 + 2 makes 22 rather than 4, and that is the reason why we would look at that. Second is that the business has to be focused predominantly on SME and micro SME. Third is that business should be in a segment of the market which we otherwise have not yet built. So there are players who are doing very unique things: education financing, healthcare financing, machine equipment financing, POS-based financing, so on and so forth. So any vertical of servicing an SME customer which we have not yet built, and if it get consolidated with us, obviously it's good for all of us. So these are the things which we look at, and obviously it has to be accretive to our shareholders and acceptable to the regulators. So that's the combination of it. But I must tell you that there are very few and rare opportunities, but we keep looking at some of them.
Okay, Anisha, your turn.
You were just speaking about like a few new lines of services. So could you tell us a little bit about any new operations or new services started by GRO Capital in 2020? Or if you're looking out to start any such services in this year?
So look, we tend to service our SME and micro SME customer from 4 different angles, right? First is what we call our branch-led intermediated and direct business. So we are present in 9 locations. We just opened 25 more locations. We service a customer for secured and unsecured financing through 500 plus what we call intermediary partners, which are our GRO partners. Plus now we have opened direct branches. Second is we are very, very highly focused and digitization and digital journey is across all our channels. Second is what we are very focused on, what we call cash flow based ecosystem financing. And I'll talk a little bit. This is basically providing working capital solution to vendors who are supplying to manufacturers, dealers, distributors, so on and so forth. Third, we are a large partner to multiple fintechs and smaller NBFCs. And fourth is our digital platform. In last 5 months, the biggest thing which has changed for us is our ability to integrate with some of the transformation which is happening into the credit industry. So what you have seen in last 5-6 years which has happened into the payment industry, UPI was a transformative moment. Similar things are happening now for the credit industry. So Government of India has this massive procurement platform called GEM. Now on GEM, there is a platform which is called GEM Sahaya. We are the first NBFC which has got completely digitally integrated with them, wherein if you are a supplier to Indian Railways, once you take an order, we will be able to on tap provide financing for that. Obviously, there will be all lenders which will come there. There is a new concept of what is called being account aggregation is coming, and which means that as lender, we would have access to the both banking and GST on tap across the customer. So we have utilized last 4 or 5 months to invest very heavily to make sure that we are at the forefront of this technology or what digital revolution which is going to come in the credit industry in next 3 years.
Okay, Sachin, looks like UGRO is in a space where possibilities are immense, and as you rightly said, UPI was a game changer, and similarly the government continues to put ahead the agenda of digital transformation.
Yep.
And ensuring the right credit to the SMEs that really badly need it, and you seem to have found a sweet spot. Now, I just want to know from you, I know you're a new organization, you're building it on your understanding and the professionals that you brought on board and the partnerships that you brought on board. But which are the other organizations in your space that you look up to for various reasons? You could look at somebody because they may have built a scale. You may look at somebody because they pioneered a domain. You talked about players doing pioneering work in various subdomains, or you may look at someone who's possibly used technology in a big way to be able to scale up. So give us names of other organizations that you think you learn from and are in some way companies that are there to watch out for apart from your own company.
Yeah, so we are a very small young organization, so I don't claim that we are anywhere near to some of the names, but I divide in 3 forms. One, governance. I think so in financial services, the most critical important thing is your form of governance and transparency, because underlying business segment challenges can be overcome, but what cannot be changed is the form of the governance, right? And you'll see that most of the successful financial institutions have a very robust governance, right? And few of them are in India, right? Likes of Kotak and HDFC. Second is long-term path. So if you look at a bank like Kotak, right? So they are very clear in terms of what they want to do. You will not see them changing or distracting their strategy. And if you look at banks like HDFCs, so they have stayed on course of what their conviction was, and finally, that's why they have delivered very, very superlative performance. And they don't chase yearly growth; they chase 10-year growth, right? So from that perspective, those are institutions of aspiration where you would like to be, but obviously they are very large and they have massive vintage. Purely from a scale perspective, you have institutions like Bajaj Finance, which have done a tremendous job. But I think so in terms of the innovation, there are many number of financial institutions. We have drawn our aspiration from where small financial institutions, NBFCs, which are doing unique amount of work in their respective domain. So there are NBFC which are in education financing, there are NBFC which are into micro lending, there are NBFC which are into machine equipment financing, there are NBFC which are into POS finance. So each one of them have very unique characteristics, and we have tried to pull some of that. So that's why we said large capital is important, and that's why we augment our capital all the time. Second, we have focused very heavily on governance because we felt that every business challenge can be taken care of, but governance is something which is most important, and that we aspire to the best in governance. And then we've taken, as business model wise, we've taken aspiration from some of the smaller, younger set of NBFC and financial institutions and combined that. So there is no straight answer to this, but I try to give you a sense of how we have come about building this business.
Okay, Anisha, your last question before we sign off.
So my last question to you would be that, of course, the MSME sector is a very large sector in India. There are lots of entrepreneurs working in this sector. So do you think there are any specific areas of improvement required in the MSME sector? And is GRO Capital helping to resolve any or helping to build on any of these areas of improvement required by the sector?
Absolutely. So I think so the one biggest change which is required, just by mere the factor of that you're being an MSME, you don't become eligible for credit. To become eligible for credit, you have to be self-credit enable yourself. I'll give you an example. When pandemic hit, we decided to do all of our underwriting digitally, in our term, which is called PD analysis, which is personal discussion analysis, and digital KYC. It requires that the customer mobile number should be linked to the Aadhaar so that we can verify that the customer which we are talking is the same person, who has applied for a loan. You would be astonished to know that 70% of our underlying prospective borrower failed in this test because their mobile number was not linked to Aadhaar. You don't need to build AI, digital, machine learning and all that. This is as simple as what we call digital literacy. So for MSME to be credit enabled, first they need to be digitally enabled. When I say digitally enabled, which means that they have to have a culture of being transparent. They should be able to provide their information and data digitally, which is predominantly GST, banking, financial information. Second, they should have openness. MSME in India generally have believed that by sharing data, as if something bad would happen to them. Because we have come from a culture wherein we have believed that, actual income into the business is saving of tax. But that is gone era, right? Because now everything is available publicly through GST and banking. So the people, MSMEs have to be digitally enable themselves to be credit enabled so that the credit can be passed on. This is one single change if people will do. There is too much. There are many number of players who will start giving credit to them. But, showing that digital transparency is the most critical factor for MSME credit in India.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nath, for talking to us. We wish you and GRO success in 2021 and beyond. And I'm sure you'll continue to enable the dreams of many SME owners. And we look forward to having a conversation with you soon again. It's a pleasure to have chatted with you, and we look forward to more interactions.
Thank you, and wish you all very happy New Year. Thank you so much.
Happy New Year. Thank you.